Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. So yesterday I made two videos pleading with the god of dislikes to entrust me with a few tons of gold, and I promised that I would keep my job even if I got a few tons of gold, and I really would. But I think it's important to understand the only two things, or at least the biggest two things that I Peter dislike about my job. Because if I had a few tons of gold, I may do something to address those two things. The top two things I Peter dislike about my job. Why don't you guys pause the video to think about it? Number one is obviously the commute. But you know what? If I had a few tons of gold, I could probably significantly shorten the commute, right? The number two thing, this one's a little bit more abstract, is it's probably easiest to tell what happens when I'm not working. So during my trip in Houston, Texas, I found it a lot easier to do intermittent fasting. And I fasted 17 hours that second day. And on the way home, I fasted 19 hours. I actually went a little bit more than I wanted to because our flight got delayed. So that was nice. When I heard the flight was delayed, I kind of cheered a little bit because it would give me an extra 20, 30 minutes to that fast. And so that was a bright side of it. Now, the problem is that I teach at a community college. There's either too many things going on for me to think about fasting, or the schedule doesn't work, or there's like temptations around. So, for example, let's say I got a class that goes from 1 to 4, right? That's not unusual. And it's 12:30 and I look at the clock and I would so much love to continue that fast, but maybe I don't want to continue it all the way to 4, right? It forces me to make a choice, right? Or sometimes I don't need to tell you, students eat in the classroom, and I normally don't like to tell students not to eat in the classroom. Some other professors do. I generally try not to restrict that unless there's a real problem. And the reason for that is that you got kids who are 18, 19, 20 years old. Sometimes some of these kids may already have eating issues. You don't want to put any more barrier than they already have. So I don't like to do that, but at the same time, watching that sometimes is just a lot of temptation for me. Or other times, there's just too much to do. It just puts a pigeonhole between you and your best lifestyle, right? Not just eating, but also sleeping and also some of the other things. And now, during the quarantine, I was eating and sleeping so well. Of course, the caveat is that I had no social life, right? So it's a mixed bag. Now, if I had a few $1 billion, how might that change? First of all, I would get rid of my commute and or have a better way of commuting, right? I'd probably take a Waymo into campus at the very least, right? If not, live right next door to campus, or even buy out part of the campus. If I had a few $1 billion, right, I might buy a penthouse just above the campus, right? I don't know if we could do that. Number one, I would do that. Number two, I'd probably be in a better position to negotiate better stuff, right? So, for example, after all, I did take that trip to Houston, Texas, where I got to reset a lot of my habits, and I'm in a better situation now, I would say. But you get the idea, right? But the solution would not be to quit my job and to then try to eat better. Then no, I still need the social connectivity, right? This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.